2 days, but we're back.
Hi guys.
Hey,
How are
Kat.
you?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
Hey, Amy.
Hey.
Recording has started.
Oh, it's probably gonna say that every single time.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hello.
How are you guys doing this morning?
Good.
Pretty good.
Good. Shane, it looked like you had a big race yesterday.
Yeah. Running through the mud and everything.
Nice. That's awesome. I don't even know what time it is. 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Who's the person that we can't see? For those of you that have been here a while.
Oh, there's Jillian, but she's just putting
Oh,
her.
okay.
She's a little baby.
Okay.
And he's just
Right.
going down the. He's so
Okay.
cute. Sit on it. So adorable.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I will. I'll mute everybody, and if you need anything, just kind of like. But otherwise, that'll cut down on the noise when you're talking, if that works. Okay. All right, Amy. I'll
I lost my sound. Hold on just a sec.
I can hear you, Amy.
All right. Okay. I can hear you guys now. How are you guys? Do you know how many people are going to be on here this morning?
You know, there were about 9 people that said they were going to, but it could filter in and out.
Okay, that's fine. So just let me know when you want to get started.
Yeah, you go ahead and start because it'll be unpredictable.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. I don't know what kind of Kat has shared with you guys, but I am a nutritional therapist and registered yoga teacher, and I also have CF. So, like when I say I get it from a lot of levels. Trying to want to eat better for my health, and also kind of that frustration when you go to clinic and maybe your goals don't necessarily align with what they think is best for you. And as a nutritional therapist, it's different from like a registered dietitian in that we kind of look at the best way to support somebody's health and their very bio-individual needs through nutrition and lifestyle changes. So we're not necessarily treating any diseases or trying to, like we're not specifically treating diabetes or cystic fibrosis through these things. We're just helping people to learn how to eat optimally, to support their body to do the best job that it can do. And I know a lot of people that I've worked with that have CF are like, well, my body is never going to work optimally. And it's not looking at, comparing yourself to someone who doesn't have cystic fibrosis or other diseases that may affect their body, like diabetes or cancer. It's just getting your body to do its best. And I get crazy passionate about this because I used to be like junk food queen. High school, like people assume I always used to eat healthy, and that's not the case. High school, my lunch came from a vending machine every single day. It was a bottle of Coke, whatchamacallit, or a Snickers bar, and flaming hot Cheetos or Doritos every single day. And when I was first married, I had that was the first time I moved away from home, and we moved out of state. My husband was gone for 2 weeks out of every month. He was in the Marine Corps. So cooking for one seemed kind of, it was just really hard for me. It was like I could cook for 2 people or I could cook for an army. And a lot of our stuff was, highly processed, high sugar. I drank at least 6 cans of Dr. Pepper a day. So I've been kind of on both ends. I get the struggle. And I've also had a feeding tube for 10 years. I think I got it in 4th grade. And got it taken out sometime after high school. And in the very beginning, I had to use that thing every single night. And then in my early teens, I was able to have nights off where I didn't have to rely on it every single night. And then through time, I told my doctor, like, I want this thing out. I'm over it. And I had to prove to them for a year that I could maintain my own weight before they would take it out. But since then, there have been, highs and lows with my health and my weight. I'm sure you guys all get it. So I was really excited when Kat asked me to come here to talk to you guys. And I was really excited when she said that a lot of you were asking for this. I think it's awesome to see our CF community wanting better for themselves. So I want this kind of to be more of like an open conversation before we get to like you guys asking questions, because I want you to leave here having your questions answered and getting the information that you guys are looking for. There are a few things I want to share first, and one is to kind of give you guys a quick, like brief overview of what digestion should look like and the many ways that CF can affect it, because it's more than just the possibility of getting CF-related diabetes and needing digestive enzymes. And then we'll kind of talk about what you should eat, what your diet should look like, and what the typical CF diet, recommended CF diet is right now, and where I think we should also focus on, areas we should focus on to do better for ourselves. And then 2 of you, I don't know if you're both in this group, but have graciously shared your food journals with me. And I'm not going to go over every single meal in all 3 days, but I just kind of want to go over these with you guys just to show you where you can start to make small changes in your current diet. So it doesn't have to be a complete overhaul where you're starting from scratch. That's usually doesn't work for most people. Some people are, they're all or nothing and they just jump in whole hog, but making small changes I think is a lot more sustainable for most of us. And then we'll open it up and we'll talk about what you guys want to hear about and your questions. So first off, digestion actually starts in the brain. A lot of people will think, oh, the mouth, because you're chewing and your saliva contains specific enzymes to start breaking down food. But as soon as even if you're talking about food, or as soon as you see it or you smell it, your brain starts sending these signals to your body to get your stomach acid going and to get saliva into your mouth to help break down foods, and it kind of just gets everything ready to go. And then we chew our food. Saliva contains certain enzymes that will start to break down some of the foods. Obviously, we swallow it, and we go to our stomach where there is stomach acid, and that really starts to break down a lot of the foods. And then our gallbladder, that contains bile, and that bile is what helps us digest our fats, something that most of us with CF have a lot of difficulty with. And once that food sort of gets broken down by the stomach acid and the churning of the stomach, we move to the small intestine, where our pancreas, or a healthy person's pancreas, would deliver digestive enzymes to continue to break down more specifically the proteins and the fats. And then we kind of move along through the big intestine, where our body kind of absorbs a lot more of the nutrients that it needs one last time before we go to the bathroom. That's the you could get really into detail how digestion works, but I just want to keep it really simple. CF affects everything. A lot of our medications, there's for some people cause dry mouth. That can be an issue because then we don't have that saliva starting that breakdown of the carbohydrates. If we don't chew our food properly, which isn't specific to CF, but that can cause some issues, especially if we have a digestive system that's not working optimally, which would be pretty much all of us. And then I know most people with CF have had issues with GERD, acid reflux, kind of all the same thing. And what a lot of people don't realize is that acid reflux is actually too little acid. It's not too much. There are rare cases where it could be too much acid, but more often than not, it's not enough stomach acid. And that stomach acid is critical to break down our foods. And so then we're put on medications to suppress the stomach acid even more. And I'm not saying that's, stop taking your PPIs or your, whatever, your Zantac, whatever you're taking for that, because I'm sure if you guys have heard, if you have really bad reflux and you're aspirating it into your lungs, that can cause a lot of damage to your lung tissue as well. It's just something to be aware of. And there are some more natural things that are super simple you can do to increase stomach acid production, but you also want to be aware of like how healthy is your gut. If you have stomach ulcers or something, then you're not going to want to. I'm sure you guys have heard like apple cider vinegar shots. I feel like that's everywhere all over the internet these days. That can be really helpful for some people. But if you have compromised stomach lining, that's just going to cause further issues. So even if it's natural, just like a little shout out, talk to your doctors first and know what you're doing. So antibiotics, they can cause the bile in our gallbladder to, as my doctor put it, kind of gunk up, which means it's not able to flow as well and leave the gallbladder to help digest our fat. And then, of course, our pancreas, that duct that our enzymes would typically leave the pancreas to get to the small intestine is blocked with mucus. There's the possibility of developing CFRD, which is going to cause issues of its own, intestinal blockages. So there's a lot of ways that not just CF specifically, but our medications can cause some kind of disruption in the digestive process. And I think the whole reason that I'm sharing this for you guys is for me and a lot of the people with CF that I've worked with having an understanding of just how much CF, our medications, and our lifestyles can affect our digestion kind of motivates them a little bit more to understand how the food we eat can either help us or just kind of continue to cause some disruption. And when we look at the typical CF recommended diet, it's high fat, high calorie, high protein. I can't disagree with that. I think that's all a great place to start. But what's not focused on is the quality of our calories, of the nutrient density, like where we're getting those calories, and how specific foods can affect our body or just honestly make our digestion even worse. If we've already got issues with that, we don't want to just add fuel to the fire. So I think in CF, we have we've come so far with these treatments for the lung disease portion of it. We've got a long way to go in the nutrition, and we are making baby steps, moving in the right direction. But I think we're kind of all in this crisis mode thinking where it's just eat a ton of calories, whatever you can, whenever you can. And I think there are specific cases or individuals who kind of need to be more in that line of thinking because their health is at such a critical place. But I think for a lot of us, we can learn to fuel our bodies better. And we got to start thinking, I mean, we're living longer than ever. More than 50% of our population are 18 and over, and we've got to start thinking about long-term health. And I'm not saying the foods that we eat are going to cure CF. Like, don't assume that I'm ever thinking that, because it's obviously not the case. But I get a lot of people thinking that. I just think the food we eat, there's a quote out there about the foods that we eat can either heal disease or feed disease. And I think that's absolutely true. I have been able to reach kind of levels of healing that I never thought possible by changing my diet. I experienced less bloating, less gas, and all stomach cramping, which you guys know can be absolutely miserable at times. I mean, I have lost the number of times I've been asked how far along I was or when I was due. I'm like, I'm not pregnant, I'm just bloated, but thanks. So the foods that we eat, like I said, they can heal or feed disease, but they can also support a stronger immune system. The majority of our immune system actually lies within our digestive system or the gut lining. Same with like a lot of the serotonin that our body produces. A lot of that's in there too, so it can affect even our mental health a little bit, or and so then it's like, what do we eat? That's the question I ask. What do we eat? Where do we start? There's a lot of diets out there. There's a lot of nutritional information. A lot of it is crap, but it's hard to decipher through all of that when you have so many people telling you to eat this way or eat that way. Then you add on top of that you have CF, and you're like, well, I'm not, most of us aren't trying to lose weight, or if we are, we're not trying to lose a ton of weight. And so that just makes it even more confusing. And the best thing I can tell you is to just focus on real whole foods. So a lot of vegetables, a lot of proteins, animal proteins, eggs, chicken, beef, like all of that stuff. Healthy fat, avocados, nuts and seeds, avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil. And if you're feeling adventurous, even things like lard and bacon fat from properly raised animals, pasture raised animals, that can be good. And I mean, it's delicious. That's delicious. And then you want to kind of avoid as much as possible processed foods or processed sugars and refined carbs. With CF, if we're trying to gain weight, fat has a lot of calories, but the truth is that if we're eating enough fat, our bodies can move from being like a sugar burner where we're eating carbs for energy to using fat for fuel, which means that fat essentially can help us to burn fat. So if your goal is to gain weight, you do want to eat carbs. I mean, they're not bad. They're not the worst thing in the world. You don't need a low carb diet, but it's just the quality of your carbs. So potatoes and sweet potatoes, vegetables, which not all vegetables have high carb content, but they have a lot of really amazing vitamins and minerals and like these micronutrients that we all need. And I try to eat vegetables with every single meal, even breakfast, which weirds some people out, but start slow. You don't have to jump in there eating vegetables all the time. Some other good carb sources would be white rice instead of brown rice. And a lot of people are like, what? White rice, one, it's easier to digest, which we could all use. And any of the nutrients that you'll be getting from brown rice actually aren't really available to our bodies because of the husk on the brown rice. It's not called a husk, but something like that. It contains these phytochemicals that prevent our body, CF or not, from actually using those nutrients in the brown rice. They're just not bioavailable to us. So add some more nutrients to white rice because aside from it being carbs, it doesn't have a lot going for it. I'll cook it, the cooking liquid, like half water and a half bone broth or some sort of stock to add a little bit more flavor, and like a tablespoon of grass-fed butter or ghee. When it comes to carbs, you want to get the majority of your carbs from real foods that contain a lot of nutrients. But I also know that like you don't vilify sweet treats. Have your or even alcohol. You know, if you have a glass of wine or you have a beer once in a while, that's fine. Just don't go overboard. If you want to have, you know, like a handful of M&Ms, go for it. Maybe don't eat them by themselves. Eat them close to a meal so that it's not a direct insult to your pancreas and causes this sugar jump, and then your pancreas has got to send out this insulin. And when you are putting a meal together, get your protein source. I'm going to say right now, if you are a vegan, that's great. That's not a diet I can get behind. I'm not going to judge anyone for doing it. Everyone has their own personal reasons for eating the way we do. But what we need as humans to kind of function at an optimal level, we can't get all of that from a vegan diet. It's a little bit easier with a vegetarian diet. I do think, I believe in eating meat, the best quality that we can get, but we do the best we have. But we also don't need to be eating like crazy amounts of meat. We don't have to go nuts, but your meal should contain some portion of proteins, whether that's eggs or fish. I mean, there's a lot of choices out there. And a lot of vegetables, which I think this is the hardest to get anyone to eat, is vegetables. But I'll tell you, if you cook them the right way, if you cook them in some sort of fat, like healthy fat, they taste better. If you roast them, that to me provides the most flavor, and they don't get like soggy and mushy, because nobody wants mushy vegetables. It's like I don't steam veggies. I know people say that's better for you. But to me, it kind of like drains their flavor. They get mushy. So roasting veggies, cooking them stovetop in a healthy fat. Use salt on everything, preferably like a Himalayan sea salt or some sort of Celtic sea salt, because that contains a lot of really good minerals. And then you want to add some sort of healthy fats to your meal, and then a smaller portion of carbs. A tip about fats is as people with CF, we already have a hard time digesting the fats. So if you notice that's you, like if you eat a high fat diet and you feel like you get bloated or cramping or just whatever, the side effects maybe, back off those fats and start slow. And if you are eating, I don't like to label food good and bad, but if you're eating like a bad fat, something like canola oil or vegetable oil, or you're eating out, that's typically what they use in foods in restaurants, try to stay away from those. I have found personally that I do a lot better with avocado oil, coconut oil, olive oils, and my body has an easier time digesting them, and it doesn't react as badly to them. And then in this line of thinking of what should we eat, a lot of people will ask about grains. And this is, if you want to eat grains, that's fine. It's just one of those things, kind of limit them. Put your proteins, your veggies, your fats first, and then kind of add in the grains. If you love pasta, have pasta, but maybe not eat it every day. And along the same lines of grains is gluten-free. I'll get asked a lot, why should I cut out gluten? Should I cut out gluten? And this is kind of getting into a whole different, could be a whole different conversation. I eat gluten-free, and that's just because I find I have really bad CF-related arthritis and a lot of other inflammatory issues. Even with my lungs, my bigger issue is the inflammation and actual mucus production. So when I cut out gluten, I absolutely notice a benefit. If you've cut out gluten and you don't notice a benefit, then maybe you don't need to cut it out. Maybe you'll be just fine with it. It's really kind of just finding what works best for you. And also, what isn't going to cause you a ton of stress? If you're making these changes and it's just causing you too much stress or anxiety over food, or you aren't sure where to start and you're feeling overwhelmed, take a few steps back and just make small changes. Because one, it's not worth it to be that stressed over. Stress plays such, like, it affects our body in so many ways, our immune system. That affects that interrupts our digestive process. So start slow, start with where you're at, with what you have. So like if we take these food journals, let's see, this first one, I'll just kind of show you an example of kind of starting where you're at and making small changes. This first one for breakfast has oatmeal with blueberries, honey, and half, coffee with honey and half, and 1 glass of whole milk with morning meds. I think that's great. The only thing I would kind of add is that meal probably needs more protein. It's more heavy on the carbs, but it's got some, whole milk and half are good options for dairy. It's got some fats in there. But the honey, the blueberries, and the oatmeal, that's more high carb. And it would just be better with a little bit more protein. So if you like oatmeal, you could also try adding like a half a scoop of protein powder to your oatmeal and stirring it up really well, especially if they add half, so that will help it mix well. Sorry, I've been getting over this cold. You could also have a side of eggs with it. Just find a way for protein that you enjoy to kind of balance it out more. Breakfast is one of those things you want to start out with more balanced. Breakfast, you should focus more on proteins and healthy fats, and that's going to set you up for the rest of your day. It's going to help you prevent kind of that blood sugar roller coaster. If we have a high carb breakfast, then we've just set ourselves up for this like insulin roller coaster the rest of the day. You're not going to be able to level it out the rest of the day, and I'm sure you all have experienced being hangry. You're going to be hangry later in the day. That's me for sure. And you'll also, if you've got like that mid-afternoon slump, kind of shifting your breakfast to that higher protein and more healthy fats may very well help with that as well. Let's see, their lunch was 3 scrambled eggs with mozzarella cheese, a white English muffin with peanut butter, and then a salad that has lots of veggies, olive oil, salt and pepper, and then a slice of vanilla pudding cake. So for this, I would just say, really they've got their protein with the eggs, they've got fats with peanut butter and the mozzarella cheese, and then they've got a great, their salad has like arugula, spinach, tomatoes, red peppers. They have more fat with the olive oil. This is where, like with the vanilla pudding cake, I'm not dissing on the pudding cake if this is you, but I want you to ask yourself, why did you want that? Like, why did you feel that needed to be part of your lunch? Were you craving sugar? Did you feel some sort of like you needed some sort of energy boost? Or you just wanted something sweet? And maybe switch it out for something that's a little less of a hit to our insulin levels, or like a piece of dark chocolate, or even just like a handful of berries. But also in that day, that was like her only real sweet treat. So that's totally fine. But it's just kind of, you want to start asking yourself, why are you eating these foods? If you're having coffee in the middle of the day, or you reach for a soda, or you reach for an energy drink, is it because you just really like the taste and it's good? Are you having some sort of energy slump? That's me. Like, coffee, I can't live without it. But it's the same reason I used to drink so much soda. And then once I'd have soda for breakfast. That's horrible. But that just set me up to like keep drinking more and more soda throughout the day, because I had spiked my blood sugars, my insulin brought it down, and I kind of felt, tired again, because all I was eating was pretty much a high carb diet. So I was doing this thing all day long. So you really just balance your meals. That's Look for real whole foods, animal proteins, veggies, fruit. I would even say limit your fruit to 1 to 2 servings per day, because while it's not like a processed sugar, it still is going to affect your insulin levels the same. Eat plenty of healthy fats, and if you find that's causing a lot of digestive distress, and you kind of back off slowly, and work your way towards more healthy fats. Avoid the processed sugars and refined carbs. And I think that's like a really good place to start. It's just real whole foods. I'll say that over and over and over, because it's just the easiest thing, without adding too many rules or restrictions or labeling things good and bad. And I know a lot of us have busy schedules, whether we're working or we have kids, or we're just busy taking care of our health. Meal prepping and batch cooking, kind of the same thing, a little bit different, are complete lifesavers. They help me kind of stay on track. It helps me to stop from going through, hitting the drive-through because I'm starving and I don't have anything with me to eat if I'm out on the go. Or, just from having, 5 bowls of cereal a day, because that's just easy to make. I can just grab some food, heat it up, and it's delicious. So it can be overwhelming. Meal prep, I don't know if you guys have ever tried it, or you've just thought of it and you're like, well, where the heck do you even start? One is, you got to find out how many people are you cooking for? Is it just yourself? Is it the entire family? Is it just you and your spouse? Is it just you and the kid? Like, who is it that you're cooking for? And do you want to meal prep for every single meal? Do you want to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks all prepped for the week? Or you just want to maybe do breakfast and lunch, and then you have time to cook dinner every night? Or you have time to do breakfast, but you need to take a lunch every day? And so it's kind of deciding what works best with you and your schedule and your lifestyle. For me, I started out prepping every single meal, and that was just too much. It was a lot of work, and I also do it for my husband, and I also didn't like feeling like I didn't have enough options. I like to change things up all the time. I don't want to eat the same meal for 5 days in a row. That gets boring to me. So I kind of moved more to batch cooking, which just means Saturdays I sit down and I kind of come up with what we're going to eat throughout the week, put my shopping list together, go shopping. And then Sunday is when I usually do all of the cooking. I don't like to do it in one day because sometimes it's just too much. So I will roast a ton of veggies, potatoes, sweet potatoes, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, zucchini, like whatever I can. And I just roast it because it's just, to me, you cut your veggies up, toss them in some olive oil or avocado oil, season with salt and pepper, whatever seasonings, and put them on lay them on a sheet pan, throw it in the oven at like 375 for, it depends on the veggie, but anywhere from 20 to 40 minutes. Make sure you set a timer, and then that's it. There's no constantly stirring something, and you can, roast multiple cans of veggies at once. And then I just put those all in containers and store them in the fridge, and we can just decide what veggies we want to eat at what meal. And then proteins, I'll always hard boil like a dozen eggs and have, fresh eggs on hand throughout the week. And I'll eat those at breakfast. I'll eat them as a snack. I'll eat them for, lunch, toss them in a salad. We will use our crock pot to make kind of a more slow cooking meal, either soups, stews, chilies. Salsa chicken's one of our favorites. You just dump a ton of chicken breasts and thighs in the crock pot with a jar of salsa and cook it till it shreds. And then you can add that to your eggs, to make tacos, throw it on top of a salad, make nachos. It's kind of just one of those super easy, simple, and then you can use it in a variety of ways. Or, you could put a roast in there. You could put a whole chicken in the crock pot. And then I'll just have some snacks to go, fresh cut veggies, guacamole, or slices of avocado. We'll have apples with almond butter or peanut butter, our own homemade trail mix, so we can kind of control how much sugar it contains. And I actually had some computer issues, so I'll get it to you guys all by next Saturday at the latest. But I have some sheets listed with snack ideas that you can put together at home, as well as some of the brands that I trust because they're just higher quality and they taste good. I don't recommend anything that I would never eat just because it's healthy. To give you guys more ideas for snacks on the go and to have around the house, I've got another handout that has like one pot, one pan meals, whether it's you put everything on a sheet pan and throw it in the oven, or you just cook it all in one pan on the stove. Because I know easier is better, especially if you're starting to make these healthy changes. You don't want a meal that's going to take an hour to cook and you have 10 pots at the end of the night to wash. None of that, all those dishes. So easier the better. As well as a list of all sorts of veggies and sources of proteins and fruits and stuff like that. So there will be a lot of like things that you guys can have at your disposal to make this a little bit easier. And I've kind of laid out all my tips for meal prepping and batch cooking, so you can find what works for you. And it's just a process to kind of make it a little bit easier, because I know when I started doing it, I just kind of heard about it from friends or through social media. My husband was in the military at the time, and I don't know, a lot of those guys do like the muscle building contests and stuff, and then like, there's all the, then their girlfriends are all bikini contest. They all meal prep. That's what I'm trying to get to. So they would literally do every single meal. And so I thought, that's how you have to do it. I'm like, but that would be easy to keep myself on track. And having 20 Tupperware containers, it just became too overwhelming for me. So I kind of break it down for you guys to make it a little bit easier, as well as just like this list of things to focus on, which is a short list because it shouldn't be overwhelming. It should just be making small small changes. And the other thing I wanted to say is, a lot of people make this assumption that if you're going to eat healthy, you have to be all in right off the bat. It's not true. I've kind of already touched on that. But the other thing is, it's like, well, do I have to eat all organic, local raised, pasture fed, grass fed? And the answer is no. You do what you can. Not everybody can afford to eat all organic, grass fed, and all that jazz. We have our few things that, like pasture raised eggs or from local farms, like that's something that we never make an exception for. We always get good quality eggs. And mostly that's because once we tried really good eggs, we just didn't want to go back to regular eggs. That's just a personal preference. Grass-fed butter is another one. We always get grass-fed butter. A lot of that is because of the taste, but also it contains more of the vitamin, like it has a lot of the fat soluble vitamins actually I'll take in the A-def vitamins. But everything else we kind of just do as we can. And I'll send this to you too. It's the Environmental Working Group's list of Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen list of things you should try to get organic, and those that because they have the most pesticides or whatever, and then those that are just okay to get, conventionally or grown or whatever. So you guys will be getting a lot of kind of handouts to have at your disposal to make this a lot easier. And before we kind of open it up to Q&A, I don't believe in, counting calories or macronutrients or focusing on numbers. If we're at a point where it's like, well, if you need to get a baseline to see how many calories you're eating per day to make sure you're getting enough, do that for a few days. And then you kind of learn what you can kind of gauge how much you're eating each day. But I think if we get too caught up in that, it's too stressful. And it just kind of I've seen it even in people with CF who are doing this to maintain their weight or for health reasons. It becomes such a mind game, and it's consuming, and then you hate eating or you don't look forward to eating your meal. So, and the other thing is, all of our needs are so different. We all need different levels of nutrients. We all need to eat different levels of proteins and fats and carbs. And as people with CF, we're already so in tune with our bodies. We know before going to the doctors when we've got an exacerbation coming on or when we need to step our game up because we feel like we're getting sick. Start using that to pay attention to how you feel after you eat a meal. Are you still hungry? Up your fats a little bit more. Those are a lot more satiating. Do you feel like bloated and tired? Maybe you back off the fats, or if you notice a specific pattern. A lot of people tell me they cut out dairy because they heard it can cause, excessive mucus production. I'm sure it could, but I know plenty of people who eat dairy without any issues and they're just fine with it, and other people just can't handle it. So it's listening to your body. Use that same inner guidance, inner voice, or whatever you do to keep a check on all your lung stuff. Do the same with your food and your diet. How do you feel after a meal? How do you feel before a meal? What are your goals? Are you just trying to maintain or gain weight? If you're trying to lose weight, then you'll just really want to focus on your portion sizes. I think we've all been kind of trained, for lack of a better word, to just eat. And a lot of people with CF are trying to lose weight these days. And I don't see any harm in that as long as it's not going to negatively impact your health in any way. But it's not necessarily about eating specific foods or going on a specific diet. Just start with your portion sizes. Before you sit down for a meal, take a few deep breaths, really pay attention to the food as you're eating it, being more mindful and aware during your meal. And that can kind of clue us into when we've reached that, okay, I'm full. Because a lot of us who've been told to just eat, we kind of lose that connection with that feeling of when we're full. We just eat right through it. We don't even notice it. Yeah, so that's kind of I know it's a lot. Like I said, there will be a lot of handouts that break it down much simpler you can refer back to. But now I'll take your questions and see what you guys want to know more about. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
So because I'm on IV right now, so I noticed I had an exacerbation. I still have one, but it's going away. So I noticed that when I eat certain foods, my lungs, they feel like really just more inflamed and there's a lot stuck in them when I eat certain things. Like I know the dairy sometimes bothers me, high
Mm-hmm.
fat foods, but I was just wondering like what are the types of foods that actually like trigger that inflammation and that like weird mucousy feeling?
Yeah, so that can be it can be quite different for everyone, but generally, dairy can be an issue. Um, like sugar is probably the biggest culprit of inflammation for anybody. Um, Gluten can definitely, it's a very inflammatory food. And I think those are probably the three biggest. Um, and when I say sugar, I don't mean just like processed sugar. If you're eating a diet that's high in any sort of carbs, healthy or not, that can kind of trigger some inflammation as well. Something too could be the nightshade family of vegetables, which would be like bell peppers, hot peppers, eggplants, tomatoes, potatoes, not sweet potatoes, just like a regular white potato. Those
Yeah.
could all be inflammatory as well.
Okay, so what are the foods that are like anti-inflammatory almost that you'd want to like stick to make sure that you're trying to reduce that as much as possible?
I would say a lot of vegetables and healthy fats, which I said you kind of mentioned fat kind of um, can create that feeling for you. So just start out really slow. And I would say, like olive oil and avocado oil would be your best choices as far as like a cooking oil. Lower on the sugar. And then there are things like you can use turmeric in your cooking. Just sprinkle it on like roasted veggies or meats. And it's like the hot thing. They make turmeric lattes now, but you don't need to go that crazy. But keep in mind that if you have a history of a lot of coughing up blood, that things like we find beneficial, like garlic and turmeric, they can thin the blood. So if you have a really big history of it, you may want to start out slow. And if you have an episode of coughing up blood, just completely cut things like turmeric and garlic out
Okay.
for a period of
Neat.
time.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
You've talked a lot about healthy fats,
Hmm.
and so switching over to olive and avocado and oil. And what kind of oils or fats should we be avoiding?
Um,
Thank
that's a good question. So vegetable oil, any sort of vegetable-based oil. So typical vegetable oil like cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, canola oil is the biggest one because you'll find that in pretty much everything. A lot of processed and packaged foods. A lot of the salad dressings you'll buy will have canola oil as that main ingredient. And the reason for avoiding those is they're very high inflammatory, um, and they're what are considered rancid oils. They're not very stable, so they can cause a lot of damage at like the cellular level in our bodies, aside from just causing inflammation. And I tend to just my body seems to like the healthier oils better. That if I have a lot of canola oils and stuff, my body has more of a reaction to it. Anything else?
Yeah, you in the beginning you briefly touched on gut health and stuff like that, as far as flora go and healthy bacteria and everything like that. Because we're such an infected community, a lot of us are on some pretty intensive antibiotics pretty much all the time, and it pretty much just completely nukes our gut flora constantly. So what are your thoughts on far as like probiotics, using all natural kimchi, sauerkrauts, um, kefir, anything along those lines?
Use it. If you've never had like krauts, kimchis, I mean, you can even find there's a brand called Bubby's. They have a really good kraut, but they also make fermented pickles that have probiotics. And I've noticed a lot of people with CF love pickles. So you can do, if you can handle dairy, I mean, yogurt's not the best option because a lot of yogurts are just high in sugar. But there's kefir, kombucha. There's a lot of natural, like food-like products you could eat that have a wide variety of that bacteria we need in our guts. But I will say this, if you don't eat a lot of those foods, start out slow. Like a tablespoon of kraut with each meal, and pay attention to your body. If you are experiencing a lot of bloat or gas, stomach cramping, back off to just like a tablespoon a day. And there are also pills you can take, which there's a million out there, and it can be hard to decide which is the best. And one of my favorites that I've seen work the best, that's just like you can get over the counter or Amazon, is called Prescripticist. That's a really good one that you can get outside of, from having to buy it through a practitioner or anything like that. And the wider the variety, the better. So if you're eating kraut, maybe try kombucha. And you don't have to, the bottles of kombucha, you don't have to drink the whole thing in a day. Just a couple sips. And there's also a couple of brands out there that make really good kraut and kimchis where they sell just the liquid, which really is where all that beneficial bacteria is. They're called gut shots. And just a little sip of that every day could be really good too. And when you're looking for these things at the store, they're going to be in the refrigerated section. It's not the kraut that's like in a can on the bottom shelf in the aisle. That's not going to have any of that beneficial bacteria. It's in a bag or a plastic jar. I mean, Trader Joe's even has a really good, just kind of plain kraut in the refrigerated section.
Could you include that in the stuff you send out to us? The preferred krauts and kimchis and whatnot? Because I'm not making my own.
Me either. I've done it. I always I'm one of those people that likes to try it at least once, but I ain't got time for that. It's a lot of work.
Right.
So I'll send you all my favorite brands, or the brands I know are really good.
Joe is actually a chef, and he's going to start making this for us, right, Joe? I don't know the best way to do this, but I'm in touch with a few different brands, just waiting to hear back. Sometimes it takes forever. To try to find active coupon codes so that if there is anything of any of the brands I recommend, I don't get paid anything. It's just I'm trying to help you guys get a discount to try something. So if I hear back from any of them and I get those, I'll be sure that you guys get those as well. And something I've thought of along the lines of supplementation, I think we live in a world where we just assume supplements are going to fix, like if we just take a pill, like it's a shortcut, it's a quick fix. But we all don't need the same supplement. There are very few supplements that I would ever recommend to like people in general. As a nutritional therapist, we're trained with this really awesome tool to kind of figure out what each specific person needs, where they need that extra support, and then what actual supplement, whether it's food, like an actual food or a food-based supplement or high quality supplement, which one would work for them specifically. But the things I would recommend, especially for people is the probiotic, if you're able to handle it, or probiotic rich foods. Another good one would be collagen. I don't know if there's one of the bigger brands is like Vital Proteins collagen. Can't think of the other one, but I'll include this in the information. And collagen, it's awesome for not just like your hair, your skin, and your nails, but your bones, your joints, the connective tissue. But it's also really amazing to help with the stomach lining and gut healing.
And this can, I mean, I could talk about this forever, but like gut healing specifically, and like, I don't know if you guys have heard the term leaky gut. It's kind of becoming popular right now. It's basically gut permeability, where the intestines, it should be kind of locked up like this. Like nothing should be able to get through that barrier. But when we're eating maybe more rancid fats or foods that cause inflammation, or on a lot of medications or antibiotics, or our food for whatever reason just isn't breaking down enough, it causes like these, literally these gaps. It's microscopic, so it's not like you have big holes in your intestines, but these gaps where foods can permeate that and get into our bloodstream. And this can cause our body to react. You know, they see it as foreign invaders, and that's where a lot of autoimmune diseases pop up. But also, it's a cause for high levels of inflammation because your body thinks it's constantly under attack. That's also how food sensitivities or allergies will come about, as it's been attacking this food for so long that it's like, you know, this is a really big threat. With CF, we're always going to have some level of gut permeability just because of the level of interruption in our digestive systems, but there are things that we can do to kind of calm that down, and one of them is using collagen. And you can put it in anything. It's a powder. It's really fine, and the collagen, it mixes well into anything hot or cold. So I put it in, like I drink bulletproof coffee, and I put it in there. You could put it in plain black coffee and it dissolves. You could put it in your water if you wanted. Just getting a little bit of that every day would be really good for your gut health, but also your bones and joints, which I know a lot of us with CF need help with too.
Awesome. And can you address, I know a lot of people are kind of looking for like either their just the supplements or the quick shakes or the packaged drinks or whatever, and just kind of address that for a moment as well.
Yeah, so one, I think that drinking calories, especially for those of us trying to gain weight, so we're constantly eating, can be a lot easier than constantly eating calories. And if you're looking for like a protein shake, there are good options out there. Generally, you just want to look for one that is lower in sugar, because a lot of them, especially the ones that are like flavored to taste like cereal or cinnamon rolls or whatever, they're going to be a lot higher in sugar than what's usually necessary, in my opinion. I'll include a list of brands that are pretty good as far as ingredient wise, but the awesome thing too is for people with a dairy sensitivity or sensitive to whey, they're coming out with more options outside of dairy and whey for protein shakes. I don't know what they taste like because I haven't had this one specifically, but they even have like bone broth protein. So I can't recommend it because I've never tasted it. So if you taste that one, let me know what you think. But it's awesome to see. There's so many great options right now. And if you guys, because a lot of this stuff can be pricey, that's why I say stick to real whole foods first, then add in all these other things as you find necessary or you think you need. A great option I have found is Thrive Market, which I'll put the link, or I'll send that link to Kat. It's online, and that's going to be like for your specialty products. It's not just regular grocery shopping, but if you're interested in trying out some of these, you know, bars or a shake or something, they are offered at a great discount rate. There is a yearly fee, but I think I'll see if I still have the link where you can get like your first order without that fee, just so you can try it out to see what you guys like. Because I think boost and ensure, like I said, that's one of those things. If you're in that state of it's more of a crisis mode, you just need to get what you can when you can. Drink the boost and ensure. It's not worth it to risk your health just to try to find something healthier. But if you can, I would say kind of avoid those because those are high in sugar. There's a lot of weird chemicals that I don't even know why they're in there or what they're going to even do for our body. It's just kind of sketchy to me, some of that stuff. And along the lines of shakes and liquids, smoothies are great. And you can make your own smoothies. And I know a lot of people, like, I used to make smoothies all the time that were so high in fruit. That's a lot of sugar. But some tricks that are going to sound a little weird, but I do have a few recipes that are going to come to you guys, are you can just buy frozen cauliflower or like cauliflower rice or steam and then freeze your own cauliflower if you're that motivated. But that, as a vegetable, it thickens the shake without using ice and it reduces sugar. You're still going to add fruit in there to make it sweet. But I know people who use frozen zucchini now, like, and you can't really taste it, especially if you add, a little bit of fruit, your liquid of choice, whether it's like real milk or a nut-based milk. You can add like a tiny bit of honey if you need it to taste a little bit sweeter, and some sort of protein mix, or I add collagen to mine. I use that for protein. It's a really good source of protein as well. I think it's got like close to 20 grams of protein per serving. So, and fruit juices or juicing in general, veggies, fruits, is like a hot thing. It's like the health, all the health people do it. It can be beneficial. I mean, if you're so inclined to try green juices or whatever, avoid the ones with a ton of fruit. Stick to ones that have a lot more veggies with maybe just one or two kinds of fruit, because that right there, and drink it with a meal, because even though it may be healthy and it contains all these vitamins and minerals, that's like a direct hit to your pancreas, and it's, your insulin's got to come bring that back down, because those are high in sugar, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. So my advice, don't ever do any sort of juice cleanse. Not a good idea.
Hi, Amy. Do you have any thoughts on, I know you kind of mentioned drinking coffee. Do you have any thoughts on like alcohol and CF or caffeine and CF specifically?
Yeah, I think alcohol, I mean, it's fine as long as it's, you're never overdoing it. It's just kind of like a drink here or there. And it's really just one of those things to keep in mind. If you have any sort of liver issues, I know not everyone with CF does, but there are people who have a lot more liver disease related to CF. I'd say just it's not worth it. But if otherwise you're pretty healthy and you like to enjoy a glass of wine or a beer or whatever here and there, go for it. Just make sure alongside of that you're hydrating really well with water, and eating. I don't ever recommend drinking on an empty stomach, because again, all those things are usually pretty high in sugar. And as far as caffeine, this is coming from someone who has like a serious caffeine addiction. It's actually, so I'm actually trying to cut back right now, but it's really difficult. Caffeine can really affect your endocrine system and your hormones. If you're finding, I think a little bit of caffeine is fine. It's usually not a problem. But if you're someone who's finding, like myself right now, that you need caffeine to get throughout your day, or you have that like afternoon slump and you need the caffeine, then you're probably experiencing some adrenal issues, which wouldn't be surprised if most of us are. Those are the little glands on top of your kidneys, and a lot of people know them as being responsible for things like your cortisol output. Caffeine can be stressful to the body in a high amount of consumption. But so if you are finding that you feel like you need the caffeine to get throughout the day, you have that afternoon slump, then I would really start to try to cut back and work on balancing your blood sugar levels. If your blood sugar levels are out of whack, that kind of causes a cascade of other hormonal and endocrine and digestive issues. But if you just like a cup of coffee here and there, or tea, or however you're going to get your caffeine, I do recommend water first always. And this is how you figure out how much water you need specifically. You take your body weight and divide it by 2. And that's how much water in ounces you'll need. So say you weigh, 120 pounds, then you'll need to drink 60 ounces of water every day. As people with CF, I recommend sprinkling in some, like a good, like Himalayan sea salt or something. Not so you don't want it to taste like the ocean. That's disgusting and that's too much. But we lose a lot of salt and minerals, and we could drink plain water all day long, but a lot of us will still usually have some level of dehydration. But if you add that salt back in there, it will help your body hold on to the water much better as well. And for every 8 ounces of caffeine that you drink, add in another 8 to 12 ounces of water. So caffeine also it's in coffee, it's in tea, soda. It's also in kombucha because that uses tea as the base. So, and it's in chocolate a little bit. If you're eating that much chocolate, then you might have another issue.
I feel like I know where this will go, but what are your thoughts on diet sodas?
First and foremost, I think soda period should just go. If you can work towards cutting soda, and this is coming from, like I said, at least a 12 soda a day drinker, 12 cans of soda or 6 cans of soda a day, work on cutting it out. And the first question I would ask yourself is, why? Why do you just enjoy the taste? Does it serve some other purpose for you? Because it's empty calories, and even though diet soda, they will use artificial sweeteners, it still tastes sweet. And when you eat something that tastes sweet that doesn't actually have, like, it may not actually affect your actual blood sugar levels, your pancreas or your brain is already telling your pancreas, like, this person's got something sweet in their mouth, get ready to send out insulin. So your body is still in that mode of getting ready to bring that sugar down, so it kind of ramps things up for no reason, which is stressful to the body, and then it's gotta calm it down. So first and foremost, ask yourself why. Why do you want the diet soda? Is it the taste? Is it something else? Could you cut it out? It could be slowly, because I know doing it cold turkey for a lot of people can be difficult. But I just think overall, the end goal in the ideal situation would to just be ditch the soda, diet or not.
Am I on?
Brian, where are you at? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I just had a couple questions. One, kind of a follow-up to Scott's question on the diet sodas. I too, in the past, was a heavy soda drinker and then switched to diet, and have recently been trying to ditch diets and don't drink that much of it as well. But what are some other good alternatives? Like, I've tried, like the flavored sparkling waters, the flavored soda waters. There's so many different choices out there now. What are some good ones that also tie into the sugar aspect of it? Because I'm dealing with high sugar levels and trying to maintain that as well. What are some recommendations there?
I think like the bubbly waters are a great option. LaCroix is a really good brand. They have a lot of different flavors. Don't try the coconut one because it does not taste good to me. I don't know anybody who likes coconut LaCroix. It's gross.
I didn't like the waters.
Yeah, okay. I didn't, so when I was coming off soda, one of the biggest things I craved aside from the sugar was the bubbles. So that's why I tried LaCroix. And when I first drank it, I was like, this is disgusting. But I also think the more you come off of sugar, meaning the less and less you eat sugar, your taste buds kind of come alive again, and food tastes totally different. Any food. I noticed that there were things that I used to think were gross or had no flavor that I'm like, oh, this actually tastes good. But LaCroix Spindrift, that's another option of a water. You can try that. I've heard a lot of people who don't like LaCroix like the Spindrift. And just like the plain Perrier or Perrier waters, or the plain Pellegrino. The flavored Pellegrino, though, usually has a lot of sugar in that. And just, yeah, I mean, that's about, I mean, just in a lot of water with a little bit of sea salt. It's hard to come off of it. I think a lot of it is just this, it's a comfortable thing. It's something that we just have and we're used to, so it's more like a habit. So when you cut it down as far as you can go, and then if you can get past 21 days of not having it, I think it starts to get easier.
Okay, cool. And then my other question was back to the potatoes, because I didn't quite get all of that, but I eat a lot of regular, just regular potatoes. I heard you mention something about sweet potatoes. Is either or one of those, or what's my best option to stay as far away from getting as much sugar out of those as possible? Or I know you mentioned rice as being a good alternative. Is that the better option to go that route?
I think they're all great options. Sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, white rice. Keep in mind just portion sizes. You don't want to, just have like a big, huge bowl of potatoes or white rice. But also to up the nutrient factor, like I said, when you're cooking your rice, use half if you can get a good quality bone broth, which is slowly becoming more available even in foods or stores like Smith's. I know our Smith's, which is like a Kroger's here, now has bone broth you can buy. Do half water, half bone broth. Add a little bit of grass-fed butter in there. When you cook your potatoes, use a good quality fat, avocado oil, or one we'll use duck fat, which sounds crazy, but you can get at most, I don't know, quite a few places now, and it just adds like a really good flavor, but it's also a good pairing carbs with fats will kind of slow down the hit to our pancreas and the blood sugar levels. So if you just have carbs or sugar by itself, it's going to immediately spike those sugar levels, and then our insulin has to work to bring it down. But pairing it with proteins and like a healthy fat will kind of help level things out at least a little bit, because it kind of slows down everything. So just make sure it's a well-balanced meal.
Thank you.
I mean, you can also find like potato chips. I love potato chips. But you can find even at most grocery stores potato chips that are cooked in avocado oil or coconut oil. So if you're going to have a potato chip, then choose one that's cooked in a better oil like that.
Avocado oil is one of the better choices over like any of the others?
Yeah, I think my top choices without getting into like more expensive stuff are olive oil, avocado oil, and coconut oil. Those are probably my top 3 cooking fats. And avocado oil is great because it doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own, which, you know, a lot of people won't eat coconut oil because it tastes too much like coconut to them. It's a really mild flavor, and it can handle really high heat, like up to 500 degrees. So you could, you know, like pan fry with it. You could roast with it. You could cook pretty much any, you know, do anything with it. Anything else? And if you guys think of something later, you're like, oh dang, I wish I would have asked that. Kat, you can give them my email. I have no problem. They can reach out to me via email and follow up that way.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aimee. Great to have your presentation and have, I don't know, the dialogue after is always so beneficial, it seems like, too.
Yeah, I had
Do
more
you
of
guys
like
have
a
any other
structured
questions?
thing.
With that?
I was gonna say I just had more of like a structured way to go about this, and I was like, I want it to be mostly open questions because I want you guys to get out of this with something. I'd rather you ask me a million questions than I come in and fill my guts and you're like, I took nothing from that or nothing resonated with me. So
Absolutely. No, I think it was great. Do you guys have any other questions? We're all good? Okay. Well, perfect. Well, thank you again. And
you're welcome.
it was lovely to
Thanks.
see all of you.
You guys are so welcome. And if you want to, I try to post because I get asked this all the time, especially within our community, meal ideas. You can, if you have Instagram, you can follow me on like the Nourished Breath. And I post meals just because a lot of people are like, well, what does your food look like? Or what do your meals look like? And that's just the easiest way to get it out there to everyone who's asking for that. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.
Thank you guys. Have a great day.
Have a great Sunday.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.
Welcome.